The backstage hallway of America's Got Talent was colder than Liam expected. The air smelled of metal trusses, fresh paint, and a hint of someone's perfume drifting through the corridor. All around him, performers of every size and style gathered, magicians practicing last-minute card flips, dancers stretching against the wall, singers humming scales to themselves. Everyone seemed confident. Everyone seemed ready. Everyone except him. 15-year-old Liam Cruz sat alone on a black folding chair, clutching his grandmother's rosary so tightly the cross imprinting into his palm. His heart pounded in uneven beats, as if unsure whether it wanted to race forward or retreat into silence. He stared at his shoes, old, mismatched, one lace frayed, the other replaced with a thin piece of blue ribbon. They weren't even his. They belonged to his cousin, who had outgrown them 2 years ago. But shoes didn't make a dream. And today, Liam needed only one thing. Courage. A stage assistant walked by, wearing a headset and holding a clipboard. 10 minutes, Liam Cruz, she said with a brief smile before vanishing into the blur of backstage chaos. 10 minutes. Just 10 minutes before the biggest moment of his life. Liam exhaled, long and shaky. He used to dream about this kind of stage, the massive lights, the roaring applause, the way performers looked like tiny giants on television. When he watched AGT on the tiny TV at his grandmother's home in Cebu, he would imagine himself standing on that platform, singing his heart out. But imagining something and living it were two very different things. His throat tightened. His fingers shook. His mind raced back to the moment he filled out the online audition form. It felt ridiculous then, a poor kid with a second-hand phone and shaky Wi-Fi trying to reach Hollywood. But his grandmother had squeezed his shoulder, her eyes bright with a hope he hadn't seen in years. Try, Anak. Dreams do not knock twice. So he tried. He pressed the rosary to his lips. Mama, he whispered under his breath, please be with me. The word mama hung in the air like a soft echo. He hadn't spoken it aloud much in the last 3 years, not since the day they got the call from abroad. His mother had left for work in Dubai when he was 10, promising to return within a year. But every year became another. Every video call became shorter. Work was hard, she said. She missed him. She loved him. Then the calls stopped altogether. The news came 2 months later, an accident, sudden and merciless. The kind that steals someone before a proper goodbye is even possible. Liam remembered dropping the phone. He remembered his grandmother catching him as he collapsed. He remembered the silence that filled their small home afterward, a silence so heavy, so thick, it felt like it had weight. Music had become his escape. His shield. His prayer. He would sit on the roof at night, staring at the cracked Cebu skyline, singing softly to the stars. Justin Bieber had been his mother's favorite. She used to say, Liam, one day your voice will reach places my feet never could. He never believed it. Not until now. Hey, a small voice said beside him. Liam turned. It was a little girl, maybe 7 or 8, holding a stuffed rabbit with one ear bent sideways. Her eyes were big, dark, and anxious eyes he recognized, because he felt the same fear twisting in his stomach. You're a singer? She asked. He nodded. You too? She shook her head. I dance. But I'm scared to go out there. Her voice wavered as she hugged her rabbit tighter. My tummy feels twisty. Liam smiled gently. Mine too. He reached into his backpack and pulled out the only bottled water he had. Here. Sip this. It helps with the twisty feeling. The girl blinked. Are you sure? You might need it. Liam pushed it toward her. It's okay. You need it more. Then he lowered his voice conspiratorially. Want to know a secret? She leaned in. I'm scared too. Really scared. But someone once told me that if we do the thing that scares us, we get stronger. Even just a little bit. The girl nodded slowly, courage blooming across her face. Okay. She handed him the rabbit for a moment, as if sharing her strength, then took a sip from the bottle. Thank you. Kuya. The word kuya, big brother, hit him softly, sweetly. Before he could respond, the stage assistant called from down the hall. Liam Cruz. You're up next. His stomach dropped. The moment was here. He returned the rabbit, stood slowly, and wiped his sweaty palms on his jeans. The girl looked up at him with a hopeful smile. You'll be amazing, she whispered. He tried to smile back. I hope so. As he followed the assistant down the hallway, he felt the weight of every step, each one carrying the memories of Cebu's dusty streets, the laughter of neighborhood kids, the smell of dried fish cooking at dawn, the sound of his grandmother humming while sweeping the floor. Most of all, he felt his mother's presence. In his heartbeat. In his breath. In the trembling notes waiting inside his chest. The assistant gestured toward the curtain. Take a deep breath. When the light turns green, walk out there and give them everything you've got. Everything he's got. That wasn't much, he thought. Just a rosary, a cracked voice full of emotions, and a heart stitched together by love and loss. But maybe, just maybe, it was enough. He touched the curtain with trembling fingers. Beyond it, he could hear the muffled roar of the crowd. The judges' voices. The pulsing energy of thousands waiting to see him. He closed his eyes. This is for you, Mama. The light turned green. And Liam stepped into the world. The bright stage lights of America's Got Talent were nothing like the soft glow of the street lamps back home. They were harsh, electric, and impossibly white, so bright that Liam had to blink several times just to steady himself. The vastness of the theater stretched out before him like an ocean, thousands of faces forming waves of expectation. His legs felt weak, almost liquid, as he walked toward the microphone at center stage. Behind the judges' table, four iconic figures watched him with varying degrees of curiosity. Howie Mondel leaned forward with a friendly smile. Heidi Klum's eyes were warm, encouraging. Sofia Vergara tilted her head, studying him like he was a puzzle she was eager to understand. But it was Simon Cowell, sharp-eyed, unreadable, and legendary, who made Liam's heartbeat stutter. Simon didn't smile. Simon didn't blink. Liam swallowed hard. You okay? Heidi asked gently, sensing his nerves. Yes, po yes, ma'am, he said quickly, correcting himself. Just a little nervous. His Filipino accent slipped through, soft and sincere. A few audience members murmured, charmed. What's your name? Howie asked. I'm Liam Cruz. 15 years old. From Cebu, Philippines. The crowd cheered lightly at the mention of the Philippines, an audience that didn't know him but instantly rooted for him. Sophia's smile grew. You came a long way. Who are you here with? How P.S. Liam hesitated, fingers tightening against each other. My grandmother. She's backstage. And, my mom. Not physically, but here. He placed a trembling hand over his chest. A hush fell over the room. Simon lifted an eyebrow, just a slight movement, but enough to show he was listening. Liam straightened his back. He couldn't let his nerves crack him open now. I'm here because my mom always wanted me to try. She said, you don't have to be rich to dream big. Just brave. The audience softened instantly, hearts opening like doors. Simon finally spoke, voice calm but piercing. What will you be singing today, Liam? Liam took a slow, steadying breath. I'll be singing Love Yourself by Justin Bieber. A few cheers erupted from the crowd, some Bieber fans scattered throughout the theater. But Simon remained still, unreadable. Why that song? I'm free. Liam's voice dropped into something smaller, more vulnerable. Because Justin Bieber was my mom's favorite artist. And she used to tell me that even if life didn't always love me back, I should still learn to love myself. A ripple of emotion moved through the room. Howie leaned forward. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Liam nodded slightly. His throat felt tight. His palms were sweating. But he managed to position himself in front of the microphone. A producer backstage cued the instrumental track. The soft guitar intro began to fill the theater. It was real now. The music swelled gently. wrapping around his ears. Liam inhaled deeply, ready to sing. But then, a sudden crackle, a glitch. The track sputtered. And the music stopped. Completely. The theater went eerily silent. Liam froze. Every muscle in his body locked. For a split second, the world tilted. This couldn't be happening. Not to him. Not now. He had come too far, he had fought too hard. A few audience members murmured in confusion. Heidi looked toward the sound booth. Sophia frowned. Howie opened his mouth to speak. But Simon reacted first. He leaned forward, hands clasped, and said in a calm, sharp voice that pierced the silence. "Sing it, without the track." The words hit Liam like a gust of cold air. Without the music. Liam stammered. Simon nodded once. Yes. No music. Just your voice. The audience gasped softly. Singing a cappella on AGT wasn't common. And for a nervous 15-year-old, it felt almost impossible. Liam's breath faltered. His stomach twisted painfully. He had only ever sung a cappella in jeepneys or on rooftops, quiet, hidden places where no one judged him. But here, in front of thousands of people and millions watching on TV, his knees wobbled. Heidi raised a hand gently toward Simon. Maybe he needs the track. It might just be a technical. But Liam surprised even himself. It's okay, he said softly. I can do it. The bravery in his own voice startled him. Where did it come from? A quiet whisper from his mother, perhaps. A memory of her humming Bieber songs while cooking rice. Her reminding him that fear only grows if you feed it. He closed his eyes for a moment. One breath. Two. Then he lifted his head and steadied his voice. I'll try. The theater stilled. Every rustle, every cough, every whisper dissolved into silence. It was as if the entire world leaned in. He stepped closer to the microphone and let himself fall into the memory of his mother's voice. He began. For all the times that you rain on my parade. His voice was shaky at first, like a leaf trembling in the wind. But the moment the words left his mouth, something shifted. The tremble became a quiver of emotion, raw, unfiltered, vulnerable. The audience went utterly still. Simon's expression changed, subtle, but unmistakable. His eyes narrowed, not in judgment, but in attention. Liam kept singing, his voice soft but growing stronger with each line. And I didn't want to write a song. 'Cause I didn't want anyone thinking I still care, I don't. There was something different about the way he sang it. It wasn't polished like a trained singer. It wasn't perfectly controlled. But it was real, achingly real. The emotion in his voice cracked open during the line. But I still hit my phone up. His throat tightened. His heart squeezed painfully. He remembered the calls that stopped coming. The silence that replaced his mother's laughter. The crack wasn't a mistake. It was truth. A few people in the audience wiped their eyes. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." But Liam didn't notice. He was lost in the song, in the memories, the longing, the ache of missing someone so deeply it reshaped your voice. When he reached the chorus, his voice strengthened even more. It wasn't loud, but it carried weight, a trembling, powerful sincerity that filled the entire theater. And if you like the way you look that much, oh baby, you should go and love yourself. Those words hit like a gentle blow. Because he wasn't just singing to the crowd. He was singing to himself. The boy who grew up thinking he wasn't enough. The boy who wore borrowed shoes. The boy who lost his mother but held on to her teachings. The boy who thought dreams were for other people. His voice carried all of it. The room remained silent, strangely, beautifully silent. Liam didn't see the judges' reactions yet. He didn't see Heidi's hand pressed to her chest. He didn't see Sophia wiping her eyes. He didn't see Howie's jaw slack in awe. He didn't even see Simon lean back slowly, his face unreadable, his silence suddenly something powerful, something heavy. Liam only felt the truth moving through him. And he sang. For a split second after the last note left Liam's lips, the entire theater felt suspended in midair, like the whole world had taken a breath and forgotten to let it go. The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. It wasn't confused. It was reverent. The kind of silence that only appears when something pure has entered the room. Liam stood frozen, chest rising and falling with uneven breaths. The stage lights warmed his skin, but his hands shook with cold fear. He stared at the audience, his mind racing with 1,000 possibilities. Did he disappoint them? Did he embarrass himself? Did his voice crack too much? He was sure he had ruined everything. Then something strange happened. A single teardrop slipped down the cheek of a woman in the front row. Then another, from a man 2 rows behind her. Then another, from a teenager holding her phone but forgetting to record. People weren't just watching him. They were feeling him. But Liam didn't know that yet. All he knew was that no one clapped. No one cheered. No one spoke. Not the judges. Not the audience. Not even Simon Cowell. The silence felt unbearable. He swallowed hard, his throat tightening. He lowered his gaze to the floor, bracing himself for disappointment, the kind he had known too many times in life. Then he heard a soft sound. A sniff. Then another. Then a soft gasp. He lifted his eyes. And the sight nearly knocked the air from his lungs. People weren't silent because they were unimpressed. They were silent because they were moved beyond words. In the judges' panel, Heidi Klum's mascara had smudged just a little beneath her lashes. Her hand covered her heart as she blinked back tears. Sofia Vergara was fanning her face gently, trying not to cry harder. Howie Mandel looked stunned, his mouth slightly open, his expression filled with something warm and human. And Simon Cowell. Simon wasn't smiling. Simon wasn't frowning. He wasn't leaning forward or leaning back. He was simply staring. Eyes softened. Jaw relaxed. Every trace of criticism gone. It was the expression of someone witnessing something rare. Something true. Liam's breath hitched. He had never seen Simon look like that, not in all the years he watched AGT on TV. Heidi was the first to speak, her voice breaking the fragile air. "Liam," she said softly, "that was absolutely beautiful." The audience erupted in applause, finally breaking free from the emotional stillness that had gripped them. The cheers rose like a wave, crashing through the theater. People stood. People clapped. People wiped tears from their faces as they cheered for the boy with the borrowed shoes. Liam pressed a hand to his chest, overwhelmed. His legs wobbled. His throat tightened again, but this time from joy so big he didn't know how to contain it. But one judge still hadn't spoken. Simon. He was the reason Liam practiced every night on the rooftop back home. He was the reason Liam believed singing could be more than a hobby. He was the reason Liam feared he wasn't good enough. And now, Simon was sitting perfectly still. Like a statue carved out of stone except for his eyes. His eyes were full. Thoughtful. Almost gentle. "Yes, sir." Liam whispered, unsure if Simon could even hear him through the applause. "Did I do okay?" The crowd quieted just enough to hear his trembling voice. Simon blinked. Once. Twice. Then he leaned into the microphone. And unlike his usual confident, authoritative tone, his voice was soft. "Liam," he said, "that was unexpected." The audience went silent again, every person bracing for impact. Simon continued slowly, choosing each word with unusual care. "When the music failed, I thought you would panic. I thought you would ask to start again. Most adults would. But you didn't." Liam's heartbeat echoed in his ears. "You stood there," Simon went on one of the biggest stages in the world, and you sang from a place that most people spend their whole lives trying to hide. The audience murmured in awe. Simon's voice softened further. "That crack in your voice wasn't a mistake. It was honesty. Real artists don't just sing the notes, they sing the truth. And you, young man, you sang your truth." Liam covered his mouth with his hand, trying not to sob. "You made this entire room feel something," Simon said. "You even made me feel something, and that doesn't happen very often." Laughter rippled through the audience. But Simon didn't break his gaze. Liam stared back, heart pounding, unsure if he was dreaming. "You have a gift," Simon said. "Not just a voice. A gift. Liam could barely breathe. Heidi added softly, and you made us remember how powerful vulnerability can be. Sophia nodded. I felt every word. Every emotion. You shared your heart with us. Howie added, and that, Liam, is what this show is about. The audience clapped again, louder this time, more confident, more certain. Liam felt like he might collapse. His grandmother's rosary felt warm against his palm. His throat ached, both from singing and from holding back tears. But Simon wasn't finished. He leaned closer, speaking just to Liam. You said earlier that your mother told you to love yourself, Simon said. Well. After hearing that performance, I hope you do. Because today, you showed us you're someone worth loving. A shiver ran through the audience. The words hit Liam like a soft blow to the chest. His vision blurred. He took a trembling breath. Thank you, sir. His voice cracked the same way it had cracked while singing. Except this time, he didn't apologize for it. Emotion choked him, but he didn't hide it. Not anymore. The applause continued. People cheered his name. People held their hearts. People smiled through tears. Liam looked out at all of them and felt something shift inside his chest. He wasn't the boy who sang for loose coins on dusty sidewalks anymore. He wasn't the kid with mismatched shoes and trembling hands. He wasn't even the boy who feared he might disappoint everyone. He was a singer. A storyteller. A son continuing his mother's legacy. And in the middle of that stage under the hot lights, with thousands cheering and Simon Cowell silent in awe, Liam felt something he hadn't felt in years. He felt seen. He felt worthy. He felt alive. The applause was still echoing through the theater when Liam finally lowered his trembling hands from his face. His cheeks were hot, flushed with a mixture of disbelief and joy so overwhelming he wasn't sure if his legs could hold him much longer. The stage lights shimmered like stars above him, and the golden confetti cannons not yet fired waited silently like sleeping giants. He was still processing Simon Cowell's words, words he never imagined he would hear in his lifetime when Heidi Klum leaned forward again, her eyes glistening with emotion. Liam, she said softly, can I share something with the audience? Something that happened backstage? He.com. Liam blinked in confusion. He wasn't sure what she meant. He hadn't done anything special. He had just been too nervous to talk to anyone, too overwhelmed to think about anything except his shoelaces and his breathing. But Heidi continued before he could speak. Before he came out here, she said, motioning toward Liam, I saw him sitting quietly backstage. I didn't approach him, I wanted to give him space, but I noticed something. The crowd murmured, curious. Heidi smiled gently, her voice warm like a mother speaking about her child. There was a little girl backstage. She was nervous. Shaking. Crying a little. And this young man, this sweet, humble young man, gave her his water bottle. And he told her she was brave. Liam's heart stopped. He felt the world tilt beneath him. The little girl, the one with the stuffed rabbit, the one he tried to comfort, was that what Heidi meant? He never imagined anyone had seen them. He had only wanted to help her. He hadn't thought it was anything worth mentioning. But now, hearing it aloud, hearing it framed as something meaningful, made his throat tighten. Heidi turned to the audience again. That little girl went on stage earlier, she said. And she did so well. And I believe truly that part of that courage came from Liam's kindness. A louder murmur rippled through the audience, surprised, touched, moved. Liam felt his chest ache. He stared at his hands, unsure whether to hide his face again or simply let the tears come. Heidi wasn't finished. You see, she said, her voice rising just slightly, anyone can sing on this stage. Many do. But not everyone brings light with them. Not everyone gives something to others even when they themselves are scared. The crowd clapped softly, gentle applause like warm rain. Sophia leaned forward next. You didn't have to help her, she said. You didn't have to say anything. You were minutes away from your big moment. And you still chose kindness. Liam shook his head shyly into the microphone. I just didn't want her to be scared. Howie smiled. That's exactly what makes it special. But it was Simon's silence that held the heaviest weight. He hadn't spoken again since his emotional commentary earlier. He simply stared, not with the cold gaze of a judge, but with the deep, analytical eyes of a man trying to understand the heart of a boy standing before him. The air shifted suddenly. The audience could feel something building. A rumble of anticipation ran through the room, and Liam's breath caught in his throat before he even knew why. Heidi stood up. Then Sophia. Then Howie. One by one, all three judges rose to their feet, the audience following like a wave rising after the moon pulls it. The applause erupted into a thunderous roar. Liam stood frozen, wide-eyed, overwhelmed by the sea of standing ovations that seemed to stretch endlessly into the darkness of the theater. Heidi placed both hands on the desk in front of her. And then she stepped forward. Toward the golden buzzer. A shiver shot up Liam's spine. His knees nearly buckled. The entire room inhaled at once a collective gasp of anticipation. "No," Liam whispered under his breath, unable to believe what he was seeing. "No, no, no, is this real?" Heidi smiled at him, a soft, radiant smile full of admiration. "You have a special heart, Liam," she said. "And you deserve this." Her hand hovered above the golden buzzer. Time slowed. The world stilled. Liam felt his heart thudding against his ribs so hard it almost hurt. His grandmother's rosary burned warm in his pocket. His mother's voice echoed in his memory. "Be brave, Anak." And then Heidi slammed her hand onto the golden buzzer. A sound like a thunderclap filled the theater. The platform beneath the judges' table exploded in a burst of light. Golden confetti burst into the air, swirling around Liam in shimmering waves. The crowd screamed, shouted, cried, every emotion erupting at once. Liam's breath hitched. He covered his mouth, sinking to his knees as confetti rained down on him like blessings from the sky. The golden flakes caught in his hair, clung to his cheeks, stuck to his eyelashes. He sobbed openly, tears streaming down his face, blending with the fluttering gold around him. Heidi walked onto the stage, her heels clicking softly against the floor. She didn't hesitate. She knelt beside him and wrapped him in a hug, warm, motherly, grounding. "You deserve this," she whispered above the roar of the crowd. "Not just because you sing beautifully, but because your heart is beautiful." Liam's body trembled with sobs. "Thank you. Thank you, thank you." The confetti continued to fall, catching in the bright lights like tiny falling stars. Sophia joined them, overflowing with joy. Howie clapped behind them, cheering loudly. But the moment that made the theater gasp happened seconds later. Simon Cowell stood up. Most judges often stood for golden buzzer moments. But Simon rarely stood unless something shook him at the core. He walked slowly toward the stage, his expression unusually gentle. Liam saw him approaching and wiped at his eyes with the back of his hand, overwhelmed. Simon extended his hand. Liam stared at it, stunned. Simon helped him to his feet carefully, respectfully, almost like a father helping a son stand after stumbling. Then he spoke in a quiet voice only Liam and the microphone could hear clearly. "You earned this," Simon said. "Not because of a sad story. Not because of luck. Because you showed courage and kindness when you didn't have to." Liam's eyes overflowed again. Simon continued, his voice even softer. "And in a world where people forget how powerful kindness can be, you reminded us." Liam's heart swelled. His knees felt weak all over again. He didn't know it yet, but that single act of kindness, the water bottle, the comforting words, would echo far beyond the AGT stage. It would ripple into millions of hearts around the world. As the confetti continued to fall, Liam realized something. This moment wasn't just about the song. It wasn't even about the golden buzzer. It was about the truth his mother had told him years ago. Being kind makes you unforgettable. And today, he finally understood what she meant. The studio lights dimmed, the applause still thundering like a living heartbeat inside the theater. After the golden confetti settled and the cameras rolled into their closing positions, Matteo found himself standing alone at the center of the stage, breathless, trembling, and unable to fully grasp what had just happened. Only minutes earlier, He'd been the shy Filipino teen who walked onto the America's Got Talent stage with nothing but a dream, a worn pair of sneakers, and his grandmother's whispered prayer echoing in his chest. Now, he was the boy who had made Simon Cowell speechless. Simon, the critic who rarely ran out of words. The golden buzzer was his. The entire world felt suddenly, impossibly open. He could still feel the warmth of the golden lights flashing over him, sticking tiny flecks of gold to his hair and clothes. He brushed a piece off his cheek, laughing quietly through tears. It was surreal. Almost too surreal. A soft hand touched his shoulder. "Mateo," the producer said gently, her voice thick with emotion. "Your grandmother is coming backstage in a moment. She wanted you to have a minute to breathe." He nodded, unable to reply. He didn't trust his voice. The emotions inside him, joy, shock, gratitude, twisted into something almost overwhelming. He pressed a hand to his heart, grounding himself. The audience was still chanting his name. Mateo. Mateo. It didn't feel like a chant anymore. It felt like a promise. He turned around, taking in the studio seats, the stage floor, the still glowing outline of the golden buzzer button. He remembered how small he had felt walking in, surrounded by performers who looked stronger, more confident, more accomplished. He remembered the panic. The fear of letting people down, the fear of failing. Now standing here, he realized something he had never known so clearly. He had never been alone. The door at the side of the stage swung open, and there she was, his grandmother, Lola Maria, wearing her best floral blouse, her eyes already overflowing before she even reached him. "Anik," she whispered, her voice cracking. That single word, soft and trembling with pride, broke something open inside him. He rushed toward her. They embraced tightly, his head on her shoulder, her small trembling hands stroking his back. She held him the way she had when he was a child, after nightmares, after heartbreaks, after long days selling mangoes at the market just to get by. "You did it," she said, cupping his face. "You did it for your mother. You did it for all of us." He swallowed, tears streaming down. "Lola. I heard her. When I was singing, I swear I heard her." His grandmother nodded. "She was here, Mateo. She has never left." A hush fell over the backstage hallway as crew members paused to watch the moment. Some smiled. Others wiped at their eyes. It wasn't the kind of victory people saw every day. This wasn't about fame, or competition, or chasing applause. It was about love. It was about a boy who sang because his heart had been taught to care and because he wanted to give back everything he had been given. A few moments later, the judges came backstage, still buzzing with energy. Heidi hugged him first, warm and sincere. "Mateo, that was beautiful. You have something people can't teach you. Sing from a place that makes us feel alive." Howie gave him a playful fist bump. "Kid, America's going to fall in love with you. You're the real deal." Sophia lifted her hands dramatically. "The world will know your name after tonight, just wait." Then Simon approached, calmer than the others, his expression unreadable but somehow softer than usual. He placed a hand on Mateo's shoulder. "I didn't speak on purpose," Simon said quietly. "Sometimes words get in the way of the truth." Mateo blinked, confused. "Sir." Simon leaned closer, his voice intimate and honest. "You reminded me of why this show exists. Not for big voices, or perfect performances, but for human moments. For stories like yours." He paused. "Your mother would be proud. More proud than you can imagine." Mateo's chest tightened. thank you so much." Simon nodded, stepping back. "Now go make the world feel what we felt today." The words sank deep. Deeper than any compliment he'd ever received. Because Simon wasn't praising his technique or power, he was praising his heart. Soon, Mateo and his grandmother were guided through the exit toward the outdoor lot where friends, other contestants, and families gathered. As they walked, the other performers, some older, some younger, reached out to congratulate him. "Bro, that was insane. You made me cry, man. That golden buzzer was so deserved." Mateo was overwhelmed. But then something happened that froze him mid-step. A girl from earlier, the one who had been quietly practicing magic tricks alone in the corner, approached him with a shy smile. She held out a small, folded note. This is for you," she said, then hurried away before he could open it. He unfolded it carefully. Inside was a simple message, written in neat handwriting. "Thank you for reminding me that dreams don't have to be loud to be real." He pressed the note to his chest. His song had reached someone. Maybe more than one person. Maybe many. And that was when the realization hit him with powerful clarity. This journey was bigger than a golden buzzer. Bigger than AGT. He wasn't just singing for himself, or even for his family. He was singing for anyone who felt small, forgotten, or voiceless. Anyone who dreamed quietly because life had taught them to whisper instead of shout. His music. His voice, could be a bridge. A bridge of kindness. A bridge of hope. A bridge of understanding. As he stepped outside, the cool night air filled his lungs. He looked up at the sky, the same sky his mother used to point to when she told him that dreams were just stars waiting to be reached. "Ma," he whispered, "I hope I'm making you proud." His grandmother squeezed his hand. "She's smiling right now." "I know it." Camera crews followed the pair as they walked across the lot, golden confetti still clinging to Mateo's shoulders like tiny reminders of what had just begun. The world hadn't heard the end of him. They had only heard the first note. And somewhere deep in Mateo's heart, a promise formed, quiet, powerful, and unbreakable. "If my voice can make one person feel less alone, then I will keep singing for the rest of my life." The night wrapped around them gently, full of new beginnings and unseen possibilities. And as they drove away, the glowing billboard outside the studio flickered with a new headline. Filipino teen earns golden buzzer after moving Justin Bieber cover leaves judges in tears. But to Mateo, none of that mattered as much as the small, handwritten note inside his pocket. Because kindness, small, quiet kindness, was the echo that reached the farthest. And that echo had just begun.